Okay, boys and girls, today we're going to paint our little critters that we made last class. So here is an example of a Model Magic critter that is dry. So you still have to be gentle with it, okay? Your name should be on the bottom in marker. When we paint this, we want to paint everything that would show when our critter is standing up. So this critter will stand up like this. Pretend my hand is the table. So I want to paint everything in the front, the top, and everything on the back. The only thing I'm going to leave alone and not paint is the bottom where it stands up, and I'll show you what I mean. So here I started painting my butterfly, and you'll notice when I flip it over, these are the parts that touch the table. I did not paint those because I don't want to have the paint stick to the table or to the paper. Okay, and I'm going to show you today how to paint with watercolor paint. So you'll have a small placemat at your table. Every table will get some water in a little bowl, watercolor paint, and I'm going to teach you how to use that, and some brushes. So we have to wet the brush before we wet the paint. This paint is dry to the touch until somebody uses it. So I'm going to wet my paintbrush just by dipping it in the water like that, and then I'm going to pick which color I want. I'm going to start with green. And when I use this brush in this paint, I just want the brush to tickle the paint like a feather. I don't want the metal here to be gouging into the paint and squishing the brush like that, okay? So I dip the brush, and I'm just going to tickle the paint to get it wet. So you see how I'm brushing? I'm a little slow so you can see. Back and forth, and it's just the tip of the brush. I'm never going like this. I don't want to squish the metal into the watercolor paint. I'm just going to get a little more water on there. So wet this up. There's plenty of paint on the outside edges, so even if there's a dip in the middle of the paint where it gets used a lot, there's lots of paint in here. And now I can begin painting my critter. You can start from either side. I'm going to start on my tail, and I'm going to start applying the paint with little brush strokes like that. I'm going to get inside my little crevices all the way around, and just nice and gentle, same thing, just the brush, not the ferrule. This metal thing is called a ferrule. I need more paint. I'm going to dip in a little water, brush the paint a couple of times. So I'm going to come around and just try to avoid the very bottom where it touches the table. But otherwise, I'm going to paint everything in. Okay, now I'm going to go to my next one. Clean my brush, get a little yellow. Here we go. And when it stands up, I want to make sure I don't see any white spots, but I want to make sure I paint everything except the very bottom. See how I'm leaving a little bit at the bottom showing? I clean my brush by scraping it gently on the bottom of the cup of water, and I never tap on the edge of the bowl with my water brush because then water splashes. So always just drip. You'll notice I drip it on the lip of the bowl. Always keeping these clean. These should look like the real color they are. We should never mix inside of there. Notice I'm holding him very gently while I work so I don't break him. Okay, now I'm up to my head. So hopefully by the time you're done with this, hopefully your first area might be dry already. If not, you might have to wait for a few minutes because you don't want to put your hands on the wet stuff, or you might have to try to keep it like that and paint it here. Always paint the bigger, more open shapes first and your small details last. So I'm going to paint my face last. That's the last thing I'm going to do. Got to be careful around anywhere you have these little pipe cleaners inside of your critters. So whether they're antennae or legs, just be careful painting around the shapes, okay? Take your time. There's no rush. If we don't finish today, that's okay. Carefully turning him around. I don't want to pull his antenna out, but I need to see what I'm doing. All right, now I have to do my face. Hopefully we'll have time for that. Now the head is still wet. I need to be careful that the wet paint I'm about to add doesn't blend with the wet paint on the face. So maybe let it dry for a few minutes first. And when we're ready to paint it, we take our brush, We wet it again, we pick our color that we want, and we don't want a lot of water. We just want it a little bit wet, just so the paint works. And go really slowly. Take your time. You could also leave things white. You don't have to paint them. There we go. So there's my critter. Put him back on the tray and let him dry till next time.